All right. Whatever. Welcome to the North College Hill City Council meeting on Monday, May 17th, 2021. Stand for a prayer. God our Father, we are all your servants. We trust in your mercy and love. We trust also in your guidance. Direct the meetings of this council of North College Hill to make good decisions for all the people who live in our city. Give all the members of this council wisdom and insight to know what is best for our city. Help us to be fair and just in all our decisions. Bless us all to do the very best we can. With your help and guidance, we pray this in your name. Amen. Say the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks. All right, welcome everyone. This is my first day back in the chamber since COVID happened, so lots have changed. We have a TV that's really cool, and there's people in front of me, which I'm afraid of now just by instinct. Haven't been in a room with so many people in a while, so welcome folks that are here today. As you can see, most of our council members are still practicing distancing, and they're attending today via intranet. That guy is not on city council. He's a police chief. Some of the folks in the audience know that, but the folks at home, this is not a new council member. This is a police chief masquerading as a council member today. So let's go ahead and continue to our roll call. Mr. Wald.
Ms. Dukes-Dean.
Here.
Ms. Blythe.
Here.
Ms. Underwood.
Here.
Mr. Miller-Novak.
Here.
Ms. Zorb.
Here.
Ms. Hartman.
Here. Here.
Ms. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. President, all are accounted for, all present.
Okay. All right. Did everybody have a chance to review the agenda today? Okay. Before we vote on it, does anybody have any recommended additions or changes?
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
if it suits council, I would like to move our guest speaker up to possibly right after the proclamation.
Okay. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Mr. President,
Yes?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. So I have a motion by Ms. Zorb and a second by Ms. Underwood to amend the agenda to add our guest speaker, Ms. Glenda A. Smith, right after the proclamation of Officer Lazencheck. Lazencheck. There's three ways of pronouncing A, and I went through all three of them before we got it. Okay, so we will move her right there. All in favor? I'm sorry, call the roll. I'm so used to doing a committee. You call
Ms.
the roll?
Dukes-Dean.
Favor. Aye.
Ms. Blythe.
Yes.
Ms. Underwood.
Yes.
Mr. Miller-Novak.
Yes.
Ms. Zorb.
Yes.
Ms. Hartman.
Yes.
Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion passes 7-0.
Great.
Mr. President,
Ms. Zorb?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
Okay. I have a motion by Ms. Zorb to accept the agenda as amended.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a second by Ms. Anderson. Mr. Walden?
Ms. Dukestein?
Second. Or should I just say?
That sounded affirmative. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Blythe?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Miller Novak?
Yes.
Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. Hartman?
yes,
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Motion to adopt passes 7-0.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the review and acceptance of the council meeting minutes from our meeting on May 3rd, 2021. If everybody has had a moment to review those. Would anybody want to make any recommendations for edits or alterations at all at this time?
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson?
I'll move to adopt the meeting minutes from May 3rd, 2021.
Mr. President, I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion to adopt the meeting minutes by Ms. Anderson and a second by Ms. Zorb. Can you call the roll?
Ms. Dukestein?
Aye.
Ms. Duke? What was her reply?
Aye.
Yes, I agreed.
Thank you. Ms. Blythe?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Miller Novak?
Yes.
Ms. Zorb?
Yes.
Ms. Hartman?
yes,
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Motion to adopt the minutes passes 7-0.
Okay. All right. That moves us to a special event here. We don't usually have these, obviously, every meeting. We do have a proclamation of a retirement announcement, and I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Chief Schran here to do this. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. You have the honors.
I'd also like Mayor Nichols to come on up and to help out. Tonight, I ask everybody to gather here today so that we could honor John Lazenchek. He's been with the city of North College Hill for over 21 years as a police officer. And as of May 9th, he is officially retiring from that duty and moving on to the next chapter in his life. So I humbly ask Mayor Nichols and Ron Mosby, the city administrator, if we could do something. And they were all too willing to do that. And I think that it's something that is wonderful that we can give a little back for all the years of service that you've given to the city of North College Hill. So without any further ado, Mayor Nichols.
Thank you, Chief Schran. First of all, I would like to say thank you. It's an honor to be able to retire, but we thank you for your service to our city. And I don't know, to do what you've done, to serve is commendable, and we appreciate it. You will be missed. You cannot be replaced. Enjoy your retirement with your family. And I would just ask Chief Schran if he would read this. I don't have my glasses, so I apologize.
So we're presenting to you this proclamation, and the proclamation says, whereas Officer John Lazenchek began his career in law enforcement in the Elmwood Police, then transferred to the North College Hill Police Department. And whereas Officer John Lazenchek served the city of North College Hill as a dedicated police officer for over 20 years. And whereas Officer John Lazenchek served as a dedicated school resource officer for over 8 years and received more than 13 letters of commendation for his achievements in handling critical incidents. And whereas Officer John Lazenchek was instrumental in establishing some of the first emergency preparedness plans for the North College Hill School District to include active shooter and bomb threat responses. And whereas he has led a life of selfless service for over 26 years, devoting himself to a community and its people through serving and protecting the students, residents, employees, businesses, and stakeholders. And whereas his dedication to the safety of the students, teachers, employees, residents, and stakeholders of the city of North College Hill is something to be appreciated and celebrated. And whereas upon the occasion of his retirement, the entire community of North College Hill wishes to express our sincerest thank you to you and your family for your dedication and wish you the best in the next chapter of your life. Now, therefore, we proclaim Monday, May 17th, 2021 as Officer John Lazenchek Appreciation Day, and signed with the official seal on the 17th of May, 2001, or 2021.
Would you like to say something?
I really didn't prepare anything, but first and foremost, I got to thank my family for putting up with me for all these years. Excuse me. But it seems like yesterday that I just started, but I know it doesn't seem like it's been 26 years. I thoroughly enjoyed my career. I enjoyed my time here in North College Hill, and I wish nothing but the best for the city of North College Hill and the police department here. So I thank you very much for this. It is truly appreciated.
Thank you.
So the last is to present you with your retired ID badge, as well as your police badge retired from the city of North College Hill.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's kind of a scary picture on the ID, though. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, folks, for giving us your husband for all that time, and thank you for your service, sir. I'm going to say this. We appreciate his service so much that I'm going to tell you that you don't have to feel obligated to sit through the rest of this meeting. We will not be offended if you decide to move on and not listen to our legislation or anything like that. Thanks for coming. Don't feel any pressure to do that. Thanks for coming in. And again, thanks for your service and happy retirement day. Yeah, appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Okay, as amended, we're now going to have our guest speaker. And what are you speaking on today?
Hamilton County Juvenile Court, the facts surrounding it, and some of the things that we could do to address the issue.
Okay, so our guest speaker today is Ms. Glenda A. Smith Esquire, correct?
Yes.
Who practices law in Hamilton County Juvenile Court, and she's going to give us some information today just on information surrounding the court. So please take the lectern.
Thank you, Matt.
You got it.
Thank you, Mayor Nichols. And
Can you speak into because it just that way it'll pick up in our recording.
Thank you, Mayor Nichols, and the rest of the council members and citizens of North College Hill. Again, my name is Glenda A. Smith. Can you hear me?
Now we
Okay,
can.
I'm
Yeah, that's
sorry.
much better now.
Again, my name is Glenda A. Smith. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing over 20 years. I started out practicing in juvenile court, and over a 20-year period, represented children and families in juvenile court, state court, domestic relations court, and in the federal courts. For the last several years, Matt, I've been practicing in federal court representing children and families whose rights have been violated. I've experienced some frustration with the way juvenile court is run. In 2018, 30.3% of the youth were Black in Hamilton County, Ohio, yet 81% of the warrants issued by Hamilton County Juvenile Court were issued to Black youth. And as per the city beat, Nick Swartzel, September 18, 2019, 75% of the youth admitted to the Hamilton County Juvenile Court Detention Center are Black. I think you guys have this fact sheet. So you, and that's also according to Nick
Yes,
Swartzel.
they do have this.
They have it, okay. In 2018, the average stay at the Hamilton County Juvenile Court Detention Center is 27 days, which increased since 2017. According to public records request, Hamilton County Juvenile Court does not have a report that quantifies solely how many youth have been injured at their detention center. I know that, I've requested it, I have that in black and white. Hamilton County should utilize the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative model, which reduced detention in Montgomery County, Ohio, by 70%, according to Juvenile Court Judge Capizzi, whom I've met with personally and who has spoke on this issue at the University of Cincinnati College of Law last year. In 2018, Hamilton County Juvenile Court bound over 33 youth to adult court. 30 of them were Black. Hamilton County Juvenile Court has a catch-all program to address issues related to youth, which does not meet the need of every child. And that's according to the former juvenile defender. She's now a judge here, just this past election. She said that publicly to City Beat Nick Swartzel. I know, but many people don't know, you have a fundamental liberty interest in family integrity, meaning you have a right to raise your children and conduct your family as you see fit, as long as you don't break the law in doing so. And that's, you know, Supreme Court of the United States. And that's what I hang my hat on every time I go to federal court. The Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative was started 2 decades ago as a pilot project to reduce reliance on local confinement or court-involved youth. There is a lot of evidence of how much harm that does to a child to put them behind bars. I mean, it's horrible, and we don't have time to go through that. Yeah, so anyway, juvenile detention, or JDAI is what they call the change model, is now operating in nearly 300 counties nationwide, dramatically reducing detention facility populations. JDAI kicked off in Ohio in August of 2010, and Hamilton County was asked to participate in that. All the largest counties were asked to participate in it, and they did, but for Hamilton County. Summit County participates in it, Montgomery County, Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, and several other counties, and they swear by it. Basically is you put the money into the communities where the youth are, and you allow those communities to deal with violations, which is not unlike what they've been doing in China for many, many years. And I've studied their model there. Neighborhood justice, so to speak. And that tends to do a better job. Now, I'm bringing this to your attention because it is very important who we elect as leaders in juvenile court. And the leadership, the election is coming up for next year. And people are going to have to declare this year, what their intentions are. So I'm asking you to be aware that that's coming up and just know just how important it is. I had pointed out to the federal court that juvenile court complaints against families went up 90% in 2017. After that report, the juvenile court quit making that report in their annual report. So I haven't been able to get it since, but I do have that copy. And so complaints against family going up 90%. It's just not good. You have a right to raise your children how you see fit. All families are different, and all families are not going to look the same. Therefore, they can't be treated the same. And families need to have the resources and be encouraged to resolve their own issues. Because they all have them. We cannot solve it for them. And it's an exercise in futility for us to try to do so. We can just point you to resources and make them available and make ourselves available. So again, I just implore you to be aware that leadership of the juvenile court is extremely important, and just keep your eye out because there is an upcoming election next year for the leadership in juvenile court. Thank you and have a blessed evening.
Ms. Smith, before you run
Yes.
off, I have a question. So you said JDAI?
Yes, Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the fact sheet that I just gave to Ms. DeWald.
He
Okay.
has it in his email.
Oh, okay.
I have not reviewed it yet,
Okay.
transparently here. And then when you said something about like neighborhood justice or funds, or is that like referring to like mayor's court or something like that? Like funds would be devoted to mayor's
Well,
court?
it wouldn't be mayor's court per se. Like, for example, Avondale is doing a little bit of this right now. And so, but it would be what they have is a hearing officer.
Mm-hmm.
That listens to some of these cases. Now, that project is not nearly as broad as what's going on with JDAI, but it is a resemblance. But yes, it's similar to that. You have
Okay.
hearing officers that hear it and community persons that, help decide, okay, what do we do with this? I mean, somebody steals something, do you make them go work for the store owner for, a couple months to pay it off? Or do you, go to court 4 or 5 times downtown, drag the family down there, et cetera, et cetera? I mean, what's more effective and efficient?
Mm-hmm.
That kind of thing.
And you said that Hamilton County was one of the only counties, like larger counties in the state of Ohio, not using this right now.
Correct. It's the only one that I know of that is not participating in JDAI. And this has been going on in Ohio since 2010.
Mr. President. So, Mr. President.
Oh, Ms.
it
Zorb?
was- Hi, Ms. Smith.
Yes.
I'm curious, when Hamilton County didn't take on this new idea, did they give us any reason why they didn't join into the, I'll say, didn't get on the bandwagon? I mean, what was do we know why?
I do not know why. All I'm giving you is the facts that it started in 2010. I know that Hamilton County was asked, along with Montgomery County, Cuyahoga, Summit, and the rest of them, Franklin. And I just know that we're not doing it. So I made the leap that we decided not to do it. That would be up to the administrative judge, which at the time was John,
Williams.
Williams.
Yeah.
So, and
Mr. President,
Ms. Blythe.
I wanted to ask Mrs. Smith, can she repeat again? Are we voting on individuals for juvenile court in November, or are we voting on the issues? You said something voting was very important. Thank you.
voting for the leadership of juvenile court is very important. So it would be an individual because there's 2 juvenile court judges. They make those types of decisions as to what direction juvenile court is going in, as well as how the resources that has been allocated to juvenile court by the county and the state and the federal government is going to be used.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
Anybody else? No?
Thank you again for your time.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Okay.
I thought she was
One more.
Underwood, I recognize the voice.
Mr. President.
Go ahead, Ms. Underwood.
Ms. Smith, I know that there's something called youth court that they have in Hamilton County. What is that program related to the program that you're referring to or not? Or do you know what I'm referring to?
Are you talking about it? Is that an overall phrase for what they're doing in Avondale?
I am not certain.
The hearing. Okay, so no, I don't know that terminology.
Okay.
I just know there's a juvenile hearing court in Avondale, which somewhat resembles what's going on. It's just it should be going on in all North College Hill, everywhere, Madisonville, wherever.
What I would say to you is that I know that one of my former colleagues at the public defender's office, her name is Ryan Ragland. I know that she is a leader in a program called Youth Court. I don't know a lot about it. I just knew that she was involved with that, so she couldn't participate in mock trial the way I wanted her to. So if you could maybe reach out to her, sorry, and kind of see what that's about. I'm just not certain. I know it's not called JDAI, but I know that she refers to it as youth court. And I know it's I know there's quite a few attorneys who are involved with it. So maybe reach out to her to figure out kind of what that program is. And if in fact, I don't even know if the juvenile court even oversees that, or if it's something completely separate. I'm just not sure what it is.
Okay. JDAI is decentralized, I guess, is what I was trying to say to you.
Okay.
Mr. President, I did have one question.
Okay. Ms. Nichols.
Ms. Smith, do you know if the program in Avondale is specifically for Avondale residents, or do they take children or not see, but
My understanding, and I was just talking to the hearing officer today, actually, is that it is for the youth that commit violations there
in that
in their community. And that's basically what JDAI is. It decentralizes, the justice system for youth.
Is that for probably lower level offenses, I imagine, kind of like mayor's court when you it's kind of a cutoff that anything over still has to go downtown?
Well, if you mean lower level, it would not include violent offenses unless it was like a fist fight or something.
Okay.
But no, it's not going to include, it could include the youth having a gun but not using it, but it's not going to include a youth that uses a gun.
Right.
So
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it makes a difference, whereas when our juvenile system, the way it's set up, it doesn't make a difference. If you're just carrying a gun, as far as the way you're processed.
Right, everybody's going downtown.
Right, everybody's going to the detention
Everybody's
center,
going
yeah.
downtown.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, I appreciate it. Thanks again, Ms.
Thank
Smith.
you. You're welcome.
All right. We'll move on to communications. Do we have any?
No communications tonight.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'm just
Ms. Underwood?
destined to keep interjecting here. There was an email that all council members received about community development block grants. I'm just wondering if someone can answer that citizen's question. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Let me see. It was an email that we received on Tuesday, May 11th. And it says, what are CDBG funds? What are they intended for? What are they being repurposed to? Thanks, Alvin Nichols, 1706 Sundale Avenue. So I think that's in North College Hill. That was an email that was sent to all of us. I would just appreciate if someone could answer Mr. Nichols' question.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson?
I'm not sure if I got that email.
I did not, I can tell you. I'm looking right now. I did not get it either. I'm looking on May 11th. I don't have anything from Mr. Nichols.
Me neither.
Mr. President.
It's actually from, it doesn't say Nichols in the from, it says OKBAYOU.
I only have
Oh.
3 emails from May 11th, and all of them are from Ms. Hall.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, Miss, it was just sent to Mayor Nichols, Mr. Graver, Mr. Miller Novak, Ms. Zorb, myself, and Ms. Hartman. That was an interesting group, but that's who it was sent to.
Sounds like everybody that really matters to me.
I'm not even going to take offense to that.
So, Mr. Mosby,
Yes, sir.
so the question is, what are CDBG funds? What are they intended for? What are they being repurposed to? I mean, you can answer this now, but I mean,
I sent you the
I feel like this is really more of an administrative thing to answer. I mean, do you want me to forward this to you?
I mean, you can, but it was brought up in the meeting, so I'd be more than happy to just take a couple of minutes and explain it.
Sure. I mean, go ahead, but I'm
Okay.
still going to forward this to you
Sure.
anyways.
So the acronym CDBG simply stands for Community Development Block Grant. These are federal dollars that are distributed to the various communities for special projects. And those projects typically involve economic development, community development. They're funds, basically federal funds that would be used to help, improve the quality of life overall in cities. And those funds in the state of Ohio, and at least in our county, are administered through Hamilton County. So the purpose of the funds, again, is to help improve the quality of life in the particular cities through special projects. So in this case, the monies that were originally that were being repurposed were originally intended to actually acquire and demolish dilapidated buildings. And so we asked at that particular time, because of the fact that although there was time still available because the window of opportunity was closing, we asked that those funds be repurposed, meaning that we would use them for a separate purpose. And so the purpose that we asked them to be used for was to make improvements, to continue to make improvements to Marshall Peter Dumley Memorial Park.
Okay. Well, hopefully Mr. Nichols heard that.
Well, if he
Great
didn't, I will,
explanation.
as you pointed out, I
But,
know the mayor sent me the email as well, so I can
Yeah.
respond back to him.
Yeah, just write it back to him. So thanks for giving us the answer. Do we have any other communications?
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Wald.
I'd like to speak with Ms. Underwood. Could you please forward that email to me? Because obviously I'm not important because I didn't get one. So that way I can get the information off that I need for our minutes.
I just did.
Oh, never mind.
You got it.
Thank
I had
you.
it up, so.
Thank you.
So no other communications in as well?
No other communications.
Okay. All right. We'll move on to our council committee report. We'll start with budget and finance, which is me. Well, we held our last meeting. I'm terrible with dates, so I'm gonna pull up my calendar. Well, it would have been the 10th, right? May 10th, Monday at 7 p.m. or 7:30 p.m. rather. We discussed a number. Well, we went over the tax budget for the year 2021. We had what is referred to as the public hearing for that, which is required, somewhat of an antiquated system, but we're supposed to have a public hearing about the tax budget every year. After that, primarily, we went through some of these assessments regarding, well, one was to decertify. So it's actually basically, I think all the legislation on for today is what we discussed and came out of committee. In addition to that, we began talking about our salary ordinance for our non-classified employees. So of course, for the people at home, cities have two types of employees. They have classified and unclassified. Classified employees are your bargaining unit members that belong to a union. This council typically approves of a union contract, which handles the pay rates and benefits and all that stuff for our union members, which of course primarily are police, fire, and public works. This was to discuss the salary ordinance, which would provide potentially raises for our employees. We held executive session to talk about these employees who are not bargaining unit members. No decision was made at that point in time. We were going to discuss it at our next meeting and probably anticipate having another executive session with our department heads are going to come, correct, Mr. Mosby?
Yes.
Chief Schran and Fells. And are we going to invite Marty too, or? Well, I guess he doesn't really have anybody. It's unclassified, correct?
All of his employees are classified.
That's right. So it would just be our two chiefs and yourself and Ms. Hall, right? Okay, so that's what will occur at our next meeting, which will be on, let's see, second Monday in June, the 14th. At 7:30 p.m. So that concludes my report. So I will move to City and Community Development and Recreation, which is Ms. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. President. So our last meeting was, oh man, why didn't I look at that date? Is May 10th, was May 10th at 6:30. We spent a while talking about the Homeowners Assistance Fund. When it was established, there weren't really any parameters set up, so we were discussing the different parameters that would make sense for the fund, how people would qualify, how much they'd qualify for. And we are planning on continuing that discussion at the next meeting. We also spent some time talking about possibly an Adopt an Island program or Adopt a Peninsula program, since some of them aren't really islands. They're just kind of jutting out from the sidewalks for businesses and individual families in North College Hill to adopt and maintain throughout the year. We also gave a little sneak peek to what the June and July committee meetings are going to entail. In July, hopefully planning on having a meeting where we welcome local business owners or local business property owners to kind of discuss with them about what they hope to see develop in the community and what their plans are to help develop the community. Mr. Mosby, do you want me to share your update from the meeting, or do you want to share it yourself?
Oh, and you can share it. That's fine.
Okay. Mr. Mosby at the meeting shared with us that we got some funding that needs to be used before September for Doomley Park. For that funding, we're gonna do, correct me if I'm wrong, updated playground equipment, and then some landscaping and possibly the resurfacing of the playground as kind of a phase 1 for the Doomley Park renovation, and phase 2 will come at a later time with the splash pad. That way we can use the money that we have while we have it. We might as well, and start working towards making that a better community, or sorry, better park in our community for families to be at. And Ms. Orb mentioned the Tree City project and requested that it a conversation around that continues. And so we have made plans to make sure that that project and that idea continues. And the meeting adjourned at 7:30 p.m. Our next meeting is June 14th at 6:30 p.m. Thanks. That's all.
Okay. Next up, thanks, Ms. Anderson, before I go on. Next up is public safety, which is Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. We haven't met since our last city council meeting. Our next meeting will be on May 24th. That's public safety at 7:30.
Okay, and our next committee is Rules and Public Policy, which once again is Ms. Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. President. We also, this committee has not met since our last city council meeting. Our next meeting will be on May 24th at 6:30.
Great. All right, now we're going to move on to ad hoc reports. Do we have any ad hoc reports from anyone? Anybody just want to make one up? Nothing? Nothing? That's good. Mr. Mosby, anything from the UPC?
I did not bring the minutes from that. However, we did have a meeting. What is this? Today's the 17th, so it was the 8th of May. And it was a good meeting. We discussed the Adopt a Plant program. We also had mentioned a couple of other things, the track that would be open, and then what we, the group, would do as far as making sure that the track was closed, because that was one of the issues. The track is open, and for those who don't know, the North College Hill High School track is open to the public in the morning right now from 6 to 8.
7:30.
6 to 7:30, I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we were also talking about it possibly being open in the evening, but the issue was to make sure that we had someone to close the gate. And so we've been talking about that, the members of that committee taking turns to initially close the gate, and then also to have residents in the community who might be interested that would also take a turn to close the gate. So that was another issue that was brought up. We did discuss, which I was going to talk about, of course, this past weekend's cleanup. We talked about that as well. So,
Right.
And then also the other one is the movie night the drive-in movie night that would be sponsored by Life Spring Community Church. So we did
we did mention that as well.
Is there another meeting on the 22nd?
Scheduled to, yes.
It's still, just making sure
Yes.
since I missed this last one. At 9:30, right?
Yes. And it too will be the same way. It'll be a Zoom meeting.
Great. All right.
Mr. President, just for clarification, you gave me 3 initials for that
Oh.
committee. Would you please?
Uniform Progress
Thank you.
Committee. Keep saying we're going to come up with a cooler name. It just hasn't happened yet.
That's okay.
Well, if we came up with a code, it could be a UPC code. Really dry humor. A lot of dry humor, I guess. I'm sorry.
Every comic team needs a dry man. All right. Great. Now we will move on to administrative reports. So we will start with Ms. Tracy Nichols,
Thank
our
you.
city mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President, Pro Tem, or whatever you would like to be called. Mr. Miller Novak?
Matt's fine too.
Matt? Okay, not to sound redundant, but I wanted to, I know Mr. Mosby is going to talk about the cleanup day. I just appreciate everyone coming out who helped. I think we had almost like 20 people. We had a couple, not college, but high school kids who came out to assist. So we appreciate them supporting and helping in their community. That's the way to be. If you start them young, maybe they'll continue on with it. I wanted to thank everyone who voted to renew our street levy. We can continue getting our streets fixed. Yeah, right. To go back to the progressive committee, one of the things that we talked about maybe, and if the recreation committee, because that is sort of recreation, if any of those members would be willing, what we talked about was possibly taking a day. So it wouldn't like burn out, because initially it was me and Mr. Blaylock saying we would have to go every day. I can't commit to every day and neither could he. So if we want to open it for the evening, we just need those extra bodies and just coming up with a plan of what we would do. So if anyone on that committee is willing to volunteer, would just be, if we get enough people and the district is willing to say that's okay, then we can do every other week. And instead of that person going, it would be like a lockbox there. And you couldn't you shouldn't share it. It should just be amongst those people. And the last thing I had is the CIC meeting is this Thursday at 6:30. We still are in need of members, council members for that. So I would invite any council member to come out to see what happens, to sit in and listen. I know we'll have a guest speaker this week, the gentleman who's doing the project up in College Hill. So I would ask that everyone would come out here this Thursday at 6:30. And that's all I have.
Okay.
They meet here in the chambers.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Thank you.
Next, we will move to our city administrator, Ron Mosby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Mayor, President, and members of council. First, I would like to say congratulations to Officer John Lazenchek on his retirement. I think it is I think it's an honor when we can see one of our own to be able to work long enough and to be able to actually retire in good health from what we all know to be a job that is not so easy, one that many times people take for granted, but is so important in our community. So I was very glad to see him tonight, to be able to begin enjoying his retirement. And as the mayor said, I did want to thank everyone who came out this past Saturday. I especially did want to take a moment to certainly thank all the members of council who showed up. I know that everyone could make, but it was it was a great representation. And I would say thank you once again to everyone who did come out and participate. I was also there, just, a couple of comments that were made. One that was made in particular was by someone who said, I noticed that there wasn't as much trash to pick up this time. And I think that that is a testament to the mayor's policy on a cleaner city and how we've had public works out doing more dedicated and targeted cleanup, particularly in the commercial business district. So I did want to point that out. And once again, the feedback was very much appreciated. As Councilmember Anderson said, we do have $130,000 in community development block grant funds. And as she also mentioned, those funds are to be used by September. We do have to use them by the end of September of this year. And this is important because this does represent a major infusion of resources so that we can take down some of the old equipment that we were not able to take down last time, install new equipment, as well as to put in new resurfacing. So the total amount of block grant money that is available is $130,000. And again, that money has to be used, as I mentioned, by the end of September. But I've been working with our engineer. I've also been working with the county, and so we're all working together to make sure that we get the project underway, to make sure that we get the bids out, so that we can get that project complete, or at least the first phase of that project completed. So if you can imagine the park right now, of course, as you all know, we've already taken the baseball building down. And so basically all of that land that's kind of to the south, all of that is where, or in that area is where the new equipment would be placed. So we are diligently working on that right now. And as the mayor said, our street levy renewal did pass. And so once again, we want to thank all of the residents who came out to vote for that renewal. And also as a part of that, we are actually going to see work beginning on Sundale Avenue. So the Sundale Avenue project is a project that will take about 220 days. And it will start, the western point will be the dead end by the golf course, Clovernook Country Club, and then it'll come all the way down to Savannah. So you will see work on that part of Sundale beginning fairly soon. Also, we got another piece of good news, and this is actually pertaining to the Hamilton Avenue project, but we have an opportunity to receive grant funding from SORTA. So just a little bit of background, when the county passed the sales tax for the bus levy, a portion of that funding, about 25%, was dedicated to infrastructure. And so it will be given out to communities in the form of grants. And so because our Hamilton Avenue is on one of the most heavily traveled routes in SORTA system, grant money would be made available. So if you all remember, our project is scheduled to begin in 2022, but we told you earlier that it would require an outlay from us of about $592,000. If we apply and receive funding from this could actually that grant would be able to take up, basically not supplant, but to reduce our liability, basically, the amount of money that we would owe. So we don't know how much we would be able to get from it yet, but our hope would be that we would apply for all of it if we could possibly get it. However, in order for us to do that, our window of opportunity closes on June 30th. So in order for me to do that, there is a resolution that would have to be passed by council authorizing me to apply for the funds. We already have a draft resolution, and is one that I did pass on to Mrs. DeWald. So what I would ask, Mr. President, if it be your pleasure to have that particular resolution delegated to the Public Safety Committee, that it can be discussed. And then for the next council meeting, that it would be able to be voted on. And it would be my hope that council would suspend the readings and pass that, and then we can apply for the grant money for that. So that would be my request for that particular resolution. Finally, a little bit of good news. 1571 West Galbraith is what most people know as the old Hollywood Video. It actually was purchased. That for a long time it had been caught up in probate. The owner had passed away and gone through bankruptcy. But anyhow, the property is owned. I have talked to the owner, but I did want to let council know that that there is now a new owner for that particular property.
With any intent, or just bought the property to who knows what yet?
So that's an interesting question. He has indicated to me that he would like to perhaps either rent it out if possible, or if someone were interested, that he would be open to selling the property.
Okay.
So
he didn't buy it to put an immediate business in it. He just bought the real estate.
I believe so. He does have, he primarily deals with residential property, and he's done a lot of work in the Cincinnati area.
Okay.
So
Anything else, Mr. Mosby?
Okay.
No, sir.
I'm sorry, Ms. Blythe, do you have something?
Yes, I had a question, and I wasn't sure if this was related to community development, but this is about beautification. The islands that are in the heart of the city on Galbraith Road, they're on both sides of Galbraith. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, they were updated with different perennials and whatsoever for beautification. And as I was driving down sometime a few days ago, these islands, they actually have more weeds in them. I'm talking about 2-foot tall weeds. So what I'm wondering for Mr. Mosby is this something that Public Works takes care of? Or is this pretty much the temporary employees that we hire for lawn mowing? Because there's literally more weeds on the island than there are perennials or beautification. Thank you.
So the bump outs, like they're where the park.
Right, where you park.
Correct. Okay. All right. Actually, I do think, Ms. Blythe, that this was one of the areas that, and help me if I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was something that Mrs. O'Rourke talked about. Am I correct? In the UPC? Correct.
So
All right.
her question was, is it up to the Public Works to clean all that? And Roger has been.
Yes. Okay. So yes, those are that area, I believe, is public property. If you're talking about around the sidewalk where the trees are and things like that, then that would be a public property. So yes. So I think the answer to your question is yes, we would maintain.
Mr. President,
Go ahead, Mayor Nichols.
Ms. Blythe, we are looking into, like we discussed before, I believe in the committee where we talked about replanting a lot of flowers in those areas. So it is in the process of getting cleaned out. It's just a matter of it's only 4 of them, and when they can, I hate to say when they can get around to it, but we try to, I don't know, I think it's probably 1 or 2 of them that does the weeding. So they are aware of it, and hopefully they can get to it this week or next week. But the other issue is finding the right person to plant the flowers that we want to put back into those islands.
And also, if I may.
Okay. Well, go ahead, Mr. Mosby.
Okay,
Finish,
so I
and
was
then
just-
Ms. Blythe, you can ask a follow-up question.
I actually very much appreciated what the mayor said, and I just wanted to remind everyone that as she was talking about the number of people that we have on our public works staff,
Mhm.
that, we have a lot of people who have been calling now about high grass. And so we now, our people are out trying to cut grass as well. So we're spending a lot of time on those properties where, high grass is being reported.
Understand that. Ms. Blythe, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, the nice thing is that as you drive by, I see there's a lot of perennials there. lilies and other things. So the good part is there's plants there that they planted 3 or 4 years ago that come up every year. And I understand grass is more important than weeds, in these mounds by the side of the road. But the good thing is they do have perennials. So once the weeds are taken up, you can just put down mulch, because I think I saw some peace lilies or some type of lilies there that come up every year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any, are you finished with your
Yes, sir.
report, Mr. Mosby?
I am,
Does
thank
anybody
you.
else have any questions for Mr. Mosby?
Mr. President, I do.
Ms. Orb does.
So actually, I have a couple. So, Mr. Mosby, I heard when you were talking about the CDBG money, and I thought I heard you say that the new playground equipment is going to go into the south end of Dumley Park. And I thought that's where the splash pad was going. So I guess I'm a little confused. Can you help me there?
Sure. So to be clear, when I say north and south, the baseball building was running north and south. And so when I say south, I'm talking about everything south of where the inclusive playground equipment was placed, where they took out the pitching. Oh, boy.
Batting cage.
Yeah, the batting. Thank you very much,
You're
sir.
welcome.
So everything south of that.
So not the
is that
parking, not where the basketball courts were. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're
Okay.
talking about the other end. Correct. So where the grass is now,
Yep.
that is where the playground equipment would be going. Where it currently is basically.
Okay.
So I'm sorry if I made it more complicated than what it should have been.
Yep, I had another one and I didn't write it down.
Uh-oh.
Got it.
Okay, do it.
How's that?
Do it.
So it wasn't really in your report, but I'm going to ask. I heard a rumor that the city has hired a litter getter person. Is that true?
Yes, there was a person that was hired to, yes, go around and focus on picking up trash in the area, particularly around what I'll call the commercial business district, which would be Galbraith, Hamilton, Goodman, that area.
I'm just curious because I don't remember seeing them on the salary ordinance. I did see the temporary seasonal grass cutters. Have we hired them?
Yes. Yeah. In
So
fact, they actually just started late last week.
So they should be able to help the.
Actually, the one,
Public Works
so
people?
let me clarify. The one who actually he's doing kind of double duty. He is picking up trash and he's doing the grass cutting. So it's not as if to say that we hired another person. We're the one of the persons that we had seasonal, we just brought them on a little longer, basically, than just the grass cutting season.
So one of the 3 grass cutters is also doing trash.
Double duty is trash collection or trash pickup.
Was that what your question was, or?
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, I have more.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't count up to 4.
2.
Yep.
2A.
So I was here on cleanup day and I noticed Mr. Cole driving a street sweeper. And I was a tad confused because I saw a North College Hill emblem on the side. And I am the vice chair of the finance committee. I've been to every council meeting and I don't remember any appropriations to buy or authorization to buy a street sweeper. So I'm just curious how that happened.
That appropriation was done from last year.
We bought a
So-
street sweeper last year.
Yes. Well, yes, we actually put it in, right. We received it later this year, but it was money that had been appropriated that was put in for the purpose of the street sweeper. So as I think many people on council may not know this, but when I first got here, we did not have a street sweeper. We were renting a street sweeper. So we were renting a street sweeper from Coleraine Township, and then we only had it for a fixed number of days throughout basically the summer months. The agreement was we had it from basically May to September or May to October. Last year, we were able then to, because of the funding that we did receive, because there was funding that was set aside for that, we did have the money in the budget in order to go ahead and purchase our own street sweeper. And so, yes, that's what we had done.
I guess I'll have to look a little bit harder for that because I did not see any of that in legislation form. So I will look for that again. I am curious, though. You said you needed to have a resolution to apply for a grant.
Correct.
I'm confused by that. Have we ever had legislation to
Sure.
apply for a grant before?
Absolutely. And this happens to be SORTA's requirement in order to apply for the grant. They need a resolution. We had to have a resolution, for example, when the COVID funds, you all passed a resolution that said that those funds would only be used for a specific purpose. We actually had a resolution, for example, when we were considering borrowing the funds to fix Prospect Place. Another, transportation related resolution that said that those funds would be used for, was authorizing me and then saying those funds would be used only for that purpose. And again, the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, part of their policy as far as receiving the grants is they want a recognition basically from the municipal agency, which would be the city council, basically authorizing the city administrator to apply for and receive the funds.
So this is a sort of requirement.
Correct.
Because I know even Chief Fells applies for grants all the time and we don't pass resolutions for those.
Yeah, those you would be correct about those. Those are, yes, many times $5,000, $6,000, even $10,000 grants. This grant would be for a significantly larger amount.
Now I think I've reached my max.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Mosley, to follow up on the resolution, does this grant for these potential sort of funds require any matching from city? I mean,
No,
we would probably be fine anyways, in the sense that we're already going to use our funds from the street levy to work on Hamilton anyways, right?
yes, a portion of that, right. But if we receive the money from the grant, then those monies could be set aside for another purpose.
So really the resolution is not to, I guess, proffer any seed money for lack of better description. It's really just to essentially give you the authority to agree on behalf of the city to only use the funds specifically for this particular infrastructure project.
Yes,
Would that be
basically,
correct?
and it's a yes. And again, I should have given another example of that as well. ODOT did the same thing. We actually had to pass 2 resolutions because that's their formal policy. We just did that for the safety grant
Okay.
that we applied for.
Well, being that it doesn't require any appropriation of our money and it's street, I don't see any issue why it couldn't go to public safety. Is Erica, are you, Ms. Underwood, would you be willing to take that on in your next committee meeting?
Absolutely. Thank you. And Mr. President, I would just like to point out that Ms. Hall's hand has been patiently raised for quite some time. So I just would like to acknowledge that she's been very patient and kind to us. So if you could just kind of see, what she needs
You
there.
want.
But I would be happy
Well,
to take that on in the committee.
Okay, well, Ms. Hall, I'm sorry, I can't see, like, you don't have a little box on the screen with your hand. And I would just assume that you're raising your hand because you're excited about how awesome I'm doing at this job today. But
Fantastic job.
if you want to talk, you can talk. So Ms. Hall, what would you like to say?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the part-time employee that is assisting with litter patrol, if you will. He is on the salary ordinance. If you look on there, it'll say I'm not sure of the exact title, but it'll say under Public Works 2 part-time seasonal employees. And then as far as the street sweeper is concerned, that was paid for under the 2020 budget. It was budgeted in capital for 2020. So that's all I had.
Okay. Do you have a report tonight, Ms. Hall?
The only thing that I have this evening, and good evening to everyone, is that there's about $18,200 that came to my attention that we need for traffic control boxes. So it was left off the supplemental appropriation that you have before you. So I would just ask if council would like to amend it on the floor to include that so that we can go ahead and get that purchased. It was not included in the original budget. So, but it's something that needs to get done. If not, I can always add it on the next supplemental. And that's all I have.
That,
Okay, thank
that
you.
is correct, Mr. President. That would be my fault.
It's not
Miss-
on the agenda.
No, it is not. What Ms. Hall is referring to was initially when the supplemental appropriation was discussed at your finance committee meeting.
Okay.
It was not brought up. However, subsequent to that, we did talk with Public Works and he had placed the controllers on order.
Mhm.
And so we wanted to make sure that it was done properly. And so I did suggest to Ms. Hall that she would suggest to council if they would so please choose that they could amend the current appropriation in front. If you choose not to, then we would just have to make another appropriation that would have to be passed in June.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. Orb.
I don't see that legislation on our agenda for this evening. So I guess my point would be if it did make it to our agenda, then that line could be added before we even see it and it's good to go.
Mr. Mosby, yeah, I mean, that's what I was trying to say too. It's
Oh.
not, I mean, she's right. It's not on our agenda in legislation,
Okay.
supplemental appropriations. What we have on here is a resolution, the decertification of the residential rental registrations. We have a resolution to certify commercial rental and another one to certify residential.
Oh, which one is it under?
Okay, no problem. Then how would council like for me to do that? Would you like me to just update the spreadsheet and then just send it out with a new ordinance for the next council meeting, or?
That's what I think.
I mean, that sounds fine to me, unless anybody has an objection to that. Ms. Orb, she's shaking her head no. Anybody in TV land over there have any objections? No? Ms. Hall, you just want to do that then?
Yep, I'll do that. Thank you.
So it'll be on the agenda for next meeting, Ron?
Yes, I'm very sorry.
It's very okay. Don't worry about it. It happens. So it'll be on the next agenda meeting?
Mr. President,
Yes?
I'd like to add that I did receive this information from Ms. Ari Hall on May 10th. There were no instructions as to what to do with it. And she even said any questions. Well, I really didn't have any questions. I
Yeah,
guess I should have asked, what do I do with this?
that's okay. All right. Well, a little behind the scenes miscommunication. So it'll be on.
This council will make the administration will just make the amendment.
Yeah,
We'll just put it on the agenda for the next meeting in June.
So I have.
that's
a
fine.
question.
That way we won't have to, in other words, we won't have to amend it on the floor like
Correct.
Ms. Zorb said. It'll come to us in your suggested completed form by Ms. Hall, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's great.
I have a question for Ms. Hall. So Ms. Hall, on this email that I received, it has the legislation and the first supplemental. Is that what you're going to be changing? And should I be looking for a new one of those?
Yes, ma'am. I will be updating the spreadsheets with the
Okay,
complete ordinance as well as the legislation document as well. So I'll send all of that to you.
okay. And then is it safe to assume, because we know what that word means, once I receive this from you, it's okay then to to put it on the agenda?
Yes,
Because we're already, okay.
yes.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So Ms. Hall, does that conclude your report?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Regarding the resolution about the grant, Mr. Mosby, I know that you requested it. I think what we'll do is we'll discuss that in new business. If anybody wants to make a motion, we'll do it then. Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Is that all right with everybody? Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I didn't quite follow you.
Mr. Mosby had asked that we motion to place discussion of a resolution to apply for a SORTA grant within public safety. I guess, do we even need a motion to do that? I don't know that we do, right?
No, that's
I kind of did it.
that's your job and sitting in that chair.
I don't know if I'm just because I'm doing it pro tem, if I have that ability and power. Oh, man. Erica
Don't get power
Underwood.
hungry.
You said you'd do it, so I'm going to utilize my power for the next 15 minutes. So it'll officially be in your committee at Public Safety next week. You will talk about a resolution applying for this grant from SORTA, and you will enjoy it. And I will be there too, so I'll talk about it with you. All right, well, cool. And that's done. All right, Ms. Hall went, so we'll move on to call of members.
Ms. Dukestein, do you have anything for the call of members?
I do
Any
not.
comments?
No comments, nothing new. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Blythe?
No, it was just about the beautification on Galbraith Road. And thank you, Mr. Mosby, for answering my question.
Ms. Underwood?
Thank you, Ms. Dewald. I actually do have several things I'd like to say. First of all, I would like to say congratulations to Officer John Lazenchak. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. And I would like to say thank you very much for your service. Congratulations on your retirement. I would also like to say that I really, cleaning up is not necessarily a fun thing, but during the cleanup day, I did get to spend the day with one of my children because we were kind of picking up trash along Clover Nook Avenue. And as we were walking up Clover Nook Avenue, I had an opportunity to actually walk down Prospect Place and see what Prospect Place looks like. And I will just say that it is disgraceful. The street is literally crumbling. It looks like gravel. And I'm just really embarrassed that citizens in our city have to drive over that every day. And I would just, I don't know what we can do about it, but I will lead the charge in doing something about that street. It was very upsetting to see that in person. And I guess the next time Mr. Mosby mentions a street or some kind of project that needs to take place, I think I'll just get in my car and go, within the 1.8 mile radius that is our city to take a look at what's happening. And I would encourage my fellow council members to go over to Prospect Place. It's on Clover Nook. It's right past that viaduct. I can't remember whether it's right before or right after, but it's right there. And that street is disgraceful. That's the only way that I can describe it. So I'll fight you guys, I will, but we have to fix that street. So also I would like to say, we spend a lot of time talking about Dumley Park. And so I thought I would figure out what that was all about. And apparently it used to be called Simpson Avenue Park, but on May 14th, 1995, it was renamed after a police officer. Back then they were called marshals, and his name was Marshal Peter Dumley, D-U-M-E-L-E. The mayor at the time was Dan Brooks, and the police chief at the time was Peter Zapula. There's 3 parks in North College Hill that are actually named after a person. They're generally named by location. So Peter Dumley was a marshal or a police officer in the city of North College Hill who actually died in the line of duty. And I believe he was the only police officer to do that. There used to be a pool hall that was located on the corner of Sundale and Hamilton Avenue. And he interrupted a robbery at that pool hall on, what was the day? Maybe, I'm sorry, trying to read my notes here. I apologize. Okay, I can't remember the date. I think it was like in 1928. So he was shot multiple times as he interrupted that robbery. And on his deathbed, he told his wife that he couldn't be a coward, that he would rather die than to be that. And he was the only officer who died, like I said, in the line of duty in the city of North College Hill. Several of the suspects were actually caught, and I think one of them was executed. Several of them were sentenced to life in prison. And he was from Hungary, and then he had served as a marshal in North College Hill for 3 years. He was survived by his wife and stepdaughter, and is currently buried in St. Mary's Cemetery, which is in Mount Healthy, Ohio. So I just thought that some, other people might be, he died on Monday, April 9th, 1928. So I just thought that somebody else might be interested in knowing the story behind Dumley Park and what, and I didn't know what everybody else was saying, but it's actually Dumley, D-U-M-E-L-E, and it was named after Marshal Peter Dumley. And that is all I have.
Thanks, Ms. Underwood. To me.
Mr. Miller Novak.
It is me.
This is not my job, but I'll do it because I'm helping you out.
Am I supposed to do that?
Well, kind of, sort of, but
Oh, man.
that's okay. You don't have anything in front of you.
Okay. I was going to try to convince Mike that I did better than he usually does.
That was funny.
I just blew it. Just blew it. Just went down. So, yeah, I'd like to,
Mr. President,
echo.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I just found out that, our lovely mayor has held every position in this city.
Yeah.
And when she was the clerk of council, she used to call these names out.
Oh.
So somehow or another, I've lost that job.
It's
Oh.
working fine. He's been doing it. so-
Okay. Well,
So Mr. Miller Novak, call the members, please.
okay. I'm still in the running. All right. Well, I'd just like to echo what Ms. Underwood said about cleanup day this last weekend. I did have fun, obviously picking up trash is a little gross and stuff like that, but we had gloves and pickup sticks. And this little suction cup things on the pickup stick are
Awesome.
you don't think they're going to work that well, but they're amazing.
Mhm.
It's crazy. So, I actually walked around the city and, I think it's good to commend, our citizens that do this. And I, unfortunately, I kind of came in, picked up some stuff and left. And I did this with Attorney Patricia Boss. And I think, the one thing that kind of gets me, and I kind of just, there's a lot of things to hate about Facebook and social media. I mean, the list is long, but the one thing I really hate about Facebook and social media is I think people have now fallen into a habit where they think they're community activists because they just sit on Facebook and social media and say negative, critical things about their community. and they think they're involved because they do that. I don't know if they consider themselves watchdogs or commentaries or pundits or whatever they think they're doing, but unfortunately, I think our society has like fallen into this pit where we believe that that is contributing to our community. So people aren't actually contributing to their community as much as they used to. But you know, when you have these events like Saturday and you come out and you see that there are some people that are still contributing to their community proudly, and really kind of enjoying it too, you know? So, I mean, I know Patricia Boss, Attorney Boss, who's on Galbraith for those of us at home, they're watching the meeting. You know, Pat Boss has the office that's right by what was Northern Hills Pharmacy and now is it just like cosmetic supplies, I think, at this point in time. So, yeah. And I mean, her office has been there for a long time. And I just, you know, kind of mentioned something about, you know, Pat for people that don't know her. She's been practicing law in this city for a long time. She lives in this city. She serves or has served various capacities with the Chamber of Commerce, which is formerly the NCH Business Community. She serves on our Unified Progress Committee. I don't think there's ever a thing that I've ever asked, you know, Pat to do for the city she hasn't like gladly done. And when we were picking up trash, you know, she even told me that she has a friend because we get some extra credit for like increased recycling. So she has a friend that brings recycling stuff over to her. I don't know if that's illegal. Maybe I shouldn't have said that out loud, but she actually does go to that degree. And it's just something to be said about some people in the community who just give and give and give. And while at times it's easy to feel a little bit negative when you see a lot of negativity in our discussion boards and things like that, it's really good. I know most of us were there, obviously, because I saw everybody here there. But for me, it was really nice just to see people in the community that are still into actually serving the community and doing it proudly. So that's all I really have. Is just a great event. I think we should do it more often, quite frankly, just because it's, you know, probably needs to be done more often, and just get more people involved in different ways, because that's what the city really needs. Because as well, the one thing that's true, and I think everybody sitting at this table could probably agree at, as things in society keep getting more and more expensive and inflation increases, it gets harder and harder to have the resources to do a lot of the things, whether it's pulling weeds and medians, or if it's picking up trash around the community with limited resources and skyrocketing expenses. Really, you know, people are going to have to make a decision of investing some time and service into the community, or figuring out where more money is going to come from to do these things. So hopefully we can get more people in the community involved to provide the same service. And we should always probably take the time to, you know, some of the individuals that give a lot of service, just provide some recognition for what they do for our city, because they're extremely important. You know, this government alone cannot pull it off without people contributing. That's it. That's all I have to say.
You sure?
I'm positive.
Ms. Zorb.
So I'd like to talk about the cleanup day also. And I want to see, I want to find a way to get it to grow from, I'll call it from the litter producing businesses. It seems like you run, because I even talked to some of the people that were, I met some new neighbors while I was picking up trash, and they're like, I said, so what's the biggest preponderance of litter they're picking up? And they said, well, while we were by Burger King, it was all receipts. And then when it was by Frickers, it was beer bottles. And I thought, just maybe we can find a way to get the businesses to come out on that same day too and pick up trash instead of us picking up their trash. I found a bunch of diapers by the laundry, just so you know, in a complete outfit, like socks, pants, shirt, blanket. or there was a homeless person. I'm not sure, but they're even more homeless now if that was the case, because all their stuff is in a garbage bag. But that probably didn't come out very as funny as the way it wanted to sound. Sorry.
Yeah.
I hate when a joke doesn't land.
It's a small crowd. If there was more people, someone would have
If they
gotten
weren't
it.
muted, they'd be laughing right now. I can tell. But anyhow, I just think maybe that's the day to get the businesses involved for them to clean up their lots on that same day. Maybe, and I know an email goes out to the business association because I'm on that email chain. So maybe it's a day to actually not let the businesses think it's for the residents to clean up, but for them to clean up also. And somehow get them on this same bandwagon and make it a major cleanup, right? I think that's all I have.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Good point. There's a big difference between cleaning the tree lawn by a business where, a lot of the trash might have come from a passing car and as to actually walking into their parking lot. So I noticed that too. And that's a good point.
Maybe even you talk to the business and say, instead of handing out receipts at Burger King, ask people if they want the receipt.
Yeah.
And if they don't want it, don't give it to them and throw it in the trash can inside the building instead. I don't know.
Mr. President.
Mr. Mosby.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I do think that it probably does deserve a response. That is something that we have done, Ms. Orb. I've sent letters to the businesses through our code enforcement officer. Not all the businesses, you probably know this, but not all the businesses are part of the chamber. So that's the other part that makes it. And I agree with you. That to me is something that I think we do have a great opportunity. I have talked to many of the businesses to join the chamber. Now, they haven't necessarily joined yet, but I do talk to them. But on a larger scale, I do send out letters to them to make sure that they clean up their property. And as we talked about, Mr. Neff, who was our code enforcement officer, he does cite them if we see it. And he tells them to clean up once, if not, and if we have to send our people out, they're getting cited. So we do that.
Does that assessment work the same way as the grass cutting?
It does, in essence, that once we get them, once those charges, if they don't, in other words, if the business or the property owner doesn't pay, then it would come before you in the form of a resolution to add as an assessment onto the property.
Thank you.
Property tax, I'm sorry. Property tax roll.
Great. Well, that'll conclude the call of members.
No.
Oh.
I'm in charge. I got this.
This is why you should have been doing it to begin
Ms.
with.
Hartman.
That's right. Sorry.
Hi, thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you and congratulations to John Lazenchek. And on cleanup day, it was a fun day. I'm glad the sun was shining. I too found a outfit spread out, pants, socks along my trip. I also pulled a skeleton out of the sewer. That was interesting. Don't worry, it was plastic. And no, I would like to see more cleanup days and maybe, I don't know, trying to get the youth to get involved in service hours and things like that. And that would be nice to see. That's all I got.
Don't forget about me.
Miss Anderson?
Thank you. I love going last because it reminds me of things that I want to say. So this is perfect. I want to say thank you to Mr. Lazenchek. I hope I'm saying your name right, for your service and congratulations on your retirement. I also want to apologize for not coming to the cleanup day. I promise I will be at the next one. And I think Miss Underwood's going to hold me accountable on that one. I will be there, but you can ask my mom. I promise I don't litter. I clean up my neighborhood. I promise. But also, speaking of Miss Underwood, thank you so much for telling us about Doomley Park or Doomley Park. Now I got to figure out how to pronounce it. But I appreciate that. I think it's good to keep that history alive. Also, thank you for telling us about Prospect Place. I've driven past a couple of times, but I haven't noticed I haven't looked closely enough, but now I definitely need to start looking closer. Also, I wanted to talk about, I don't know if Mr. Mosby, you meant to talk about this or you just wanted us to see it, but Mr. Mosby sent us or posted on Facebook, and then it was in kind of the packet for this week's meeting, the Fairfield fire staffing approaching crisis due to shortage of part-time firefighters article on Cincinnati.com on the Inquirer. I think it's important if anybody wants to take a look at it. It's a pretty informative article. Pretty similar to what we're going through right now. So I think if anybody wants to take a look at it, it's there. Also, Matt was talking about the Facebook world and the craziness that goes on there. And if I don't know if anybody ever watched Parks and Rec, but that's my favorite show. And if you guys ever need a giggle, you guys should look up the town hall meeting clips from that show, because it is an exact replica of what happens on the Facebook pages. And it might give you a giggle and might put some stuff into perspective and make you feel a bit better about reading not very positive things all the time. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Miss Anderson, your mother was there Saturday.
I know she was, and she made sure I knew that I was supposed to be there, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. I saw her. She looked lonely, like she needed a daughter there.
I have two sisters that could have gone.
Company.
Too. I just want to remind everybody that.
Well, as I said earlier, it's good to give people recognition, and your mother is also a person that does a lot for the committee, and it's just someone that you just could easily take for granted, but she's always involved in such things.
Definitely.
Yeah, that actually
So-
reminded me of something too. I want to congratulate her formally in front of everybody. She has filled a position at North College Hill. She started today, and I know that she really enjoys it. And so I want to thank her formally for everything that she does for the city and for me personally and for all of us, even if we might not even recognize it. Mimi Anderson keeps the city alive. So thank you to my mom.
Thank you. Ms. DeWald, am I allowed to be done with call of members now?
That has concluded call of members. You may proceed.
I may proceed, yes. Great. Well, normally we have remarks from the audience here before and after legislation, but it's not there, and I'm going to stick to the agenda. So I guess we'll move into legislation.
Mr. President, I'd like to explain about the agenda. That's how it used to be before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And because we had a guest speaker, I wanted to put her in the appropriate place, but we moved her. So really, the second one is insignificant.
Okay.
So that's why that's there.
Do we
So when we all convene back again, you're going to see
two?
members in there twice.
Do we have anybody in the audience today?
Let me look.
Not here.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I forgot to mention in my call of members, I want to alert everyone that currently this setup ends July 31st.
That's correct.
So just to those who stay at home,
Yeah.
you might want to prepare by 7/31.
Yeah. Also, in the moratorium on card tag renewals will also expire on July 31st. So renew your license plates, and we're going to have to start meeting in public. I guess the first council meeting in August. So I think I don't really want to do it now. I think maybe in our next meeting or something, we might want to talk to Mike. I mean, we just want to figure out, I know that the CDC guidance is anybody that has, I think that the mask mandate's going to be lifted as of June 2nd, but that doesn't mean we can't make our own decisions necessarily. So something to think about, talk about if people are uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know. I mean, so
Perhaps that's something we could talk about in the next safety.
yeah, I think so. I mean, if that's something safety committee wants to talk about, I don't know. What do you think, Ms. Underwood? Do you want to, I don't know what you have on your agenda. I want to just keep dumping things in there, but since I have this power for the
Mr.
next
President,
10
I
minutes, I
think
might
that you
just go
guys
ahead and
should
flex it.
actually type the agenda in addition to adding things to it. I'm just saying.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Mr.
Passive aggressive much? So, I mean, get we,
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson,
if Ms. Underwood really wants to take it, that's totally fine. But I mean, are we just asking people like right now, like as a whole, as a council, do we want to make are we just asking like, do we all want to wear masks? Is that what we're doing, or what exactly? Because I mean, if we're doing that, we might as well have it as a whole committee meeting or a whole committee discussion, so that way everybody's opinions, since it's everybody's safety, immediate.
yeah. We could do a committee of the whole meeting, or we could use public safety. I mean, I don't know. I feel like, well, number one, I think there's a question of if there's no mandate, if we as a public body can force people in the audience to necessarily do it. I think that's probably a little bit risky. So I think we just might have to talk to our law director maybe a little bit before we can really get into a discussion about it to know what we can and cannot do. You know, I could go either way regarding the matter in the sense of, you know, disclosure. I've done the vaccines. I don't mind saying that because I want to encourage that for folks. So I've done them twice technically, and looking forward to trying another one in a few months. You know, I figure I'll just like sample them all and see how that works out. But I've done them, so I'm not really all that worried about it. But if anybody else is, I don't mind wearing the mask if other people on council want me to. I got a little Star Wars mask my mommy made that I have on right now, and I think it's pretty cool. I don't mind wearing it a little bit longer. So I'm pretty go with the flow in terms of that. So, but I think we could do, I think public safety just for expedience, because ultimately, regardless of whatever public safety kind of maybe prescribes, the full council still has to vote on it anyway, Ms. Anderson. So I think just to get it done and then get it back up for the rest of the council to kind of weigh in on it, it makes sense to do it that way. So unless anybody has any objections, I'm going to recommend that it goes to public safety. Public safety's next meeting. Ms. Underwood, are you okay with that? Cool.
Is it still 25% of the gathering of, like, it's 47 people? So I guess that's roughly 11, 12 people. I know, for instance, I'll use the school for graduation. I think it's normal 1,500 that can go in there, but we can only have 300.
Mr.
And
President,
there,
Little over, is it 25%?
Ms. Anderson, do you know?
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's just that all of the COVID mandates through DeWine's mandates are lifted on the 2nd. So I think from that point on, it's just what do individual people or individual businesses or bodies want to do. I could be wrong.
Right.
I can look it up.
I would think that this public body has the power to make its own decisions and rules in its council chambers. I mean, we should check with Mr. Dieters about that, but my understanding is it's a home rule state. And as we all know, just even historically with COVID, there was certain governments that had certain guidelines that were more, I don't want to say the word strict, but they encompassed a lot more mandates before the state actually pulled the trigger on some things. So, Ms. Anderson, do you have your hand up, or just, what was it?
The WLWT says the state of Ohio is lifting all COVID-19 health orders effective June 2nd. Sorry, just to answer Miss Nichols' question. So I don't think it's 25% anymore. I think it's just whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and part of me wonders, as well as just, I mean, I don't really know, but I think the question is just because the public body meets publicly in person, I don't know that that doesn't necessarily mean that people cannot participate with public participation via Zoom, because there's no requirement under law that members of the public have to be present in a public meeting necessarily. So, I mean, those are things to ask Mr. Dieters too. So, because, I guess my bigger concern isn't necessarily even this council as much as what happens if we get 30 people that come in at the same time. So it's just something to think about. So, I mean, potentially, maybe if Mr. Dieters can be at the public safety meeting
Okay.
to answer some of these questions, don't you think, Ms. Underwood, that might not be a bad idea? Because I mean, it's not really all that productive necessarily if the committee is talking about like, we could do this or we could do that, and half of the things that we're pontificating about are illegal. It's probably not good. What are you laughing about?
Mr. President, I will indeed add to my list to invite Mr. Dieters to the Public Safety Committee meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. President. I'm giving you a hard time just because I know you won't take it personally.
No, I won't. I've got self-deprecating humor, as you know. I don't mind being roasted. And like, you guys are up there doing it. You look like those two old guys from the Muppets. You're just up there
I'm just
making
glad
fun
you
of
can
me.
see our faces
Yeah,
now.
in the balcony.
We've been laughing all year. You just couldn't see it.
Okay. Well, we will move on to legislation. So, Ms. DeWalt.
Thank you. We have a first reading on resolution number 13, 2021. This is a resolution to decertify residential rental registration assessments to the county auditor for placements on the tax duplicate. We have a first reading on resolution number 14, 2021, a resolution to certify commercial rental registration assessments to the county auditor for placement on the tax duplicate. And our third piece of legislation is a first reading on resolution number 15, a resolution to certify residential rental registration assessments to the county auditor for placement on the tax duplicate.
Okay. I'm not hearing any comments about any of the legislation. So that's this second time we're up on remarks from the audience. I'm assuming there's still nobody in the audience. Assumption correct. So we will move to old business. Do we have any old business?
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson?
if it's okay, I just want to give a gentle reminder to Mr. Mosby about the motion from a couple of meetings ago for the rec director position description. I mean, I don't need it like by any point, so no rush on it, but just in case it fell off your to-do list or something, just a gentle reminder, no stress. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mosby? Is it still on your to-do list?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. All right. Any other old business? Nothing? Anybody up there? No? Okay. New business? Does anybody have any new business? Any other suggestions I can put into Erica's committee?
Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
yes, I have some new business. because now I have a bug in my bonnet. I want to know what we can do to fix Prospect Place. So I don't know what I can do. I would ask for suggestions. And I just want you to know that I'm going to keep asking you guys about it. And if I need to go and knock on every door of the people who live on Prospect Place and bring them to our next in-person meeting, I will do that. So if somebody could just give me a suggestion so that we can, you know, I'll walk in that direction. But I'm kind of being tongue in cheek, but it really is in bad shape. And I would ask, plead, implore, encourage, whatever word you want to use, all of my colleagues to just take an opportunity to go and look, just get out of your car and walk down the street and look at the street. I think it's very important that we do that. And I would also remind us that North College Hill is literally 1.8 square miles. So wherever you live in North College Hill, you live within a mile of Prospect Place, probably. So I would just please ask that everyone go take a look at it. And someone please, if you can just point me in the right direction, that's what I'll do. I'll take ownership of whatever needs to happen. And if not, I'll just, I'll, draw some signs or something. I don't know.
Mr. President,
I had Ms. Zorb first,
that works.
and then we'll go to Ms. Anderson. Ms. Zorb?
So I'm certainly not the finance director, but I would think that if we were able to get some, and Ms. Underwood, this is kind of to get that bee out of your bonnet. If by chance we are granted the funds for Hamilton Avenue, perhaps there would be extra fundage laying around that we could use for Prospect Place. Then I guess that would depend on how patient you want to be to wait to see how that falls out. But that's one idea that, I don't know, I'd like to float out there.
Okay. Ms. Anderson?
I was just gonna ask, because I know that council decided to not take the no interest loan for Prospect Place. I mean, is that like totally off the board now? Like that's not even an option to do? Because I think, I mean, a no interest loan is basically to somebody saying like, here's some money, pay it back whenever you can at the exact rate. I mean, I think that sounds like a pretty good idea if that were still on the board. I don't know if Ms. Hall can answer that or Mr. Mosby.
Ms. Anderson asked, my understanding is that that was like a ship that has sailed, Mr. Mosby.
For the funds that were specifically presented to us, you are correct. What I can do is go back to the county to see whether or not those funds have already been committed to another municipality. I do not know at this particular time, but I would say that the process would be the same. There would have to be a resolution that would be passed by council. We're beyond, I can say for certain that we are beyond the what would be considered the grant stage, because what happened was we were every year, of course, the county and the state, they have the SKIP program. And so, which is where we get the 50-50 split, where basically you get 50% grant, 50% loans. This money that was presented to us was primarily loan money from the revolving fund that the county has. So I can definitely go back to see whether or not that money would be available. Right now, I just don't know if it is, but I can look into it.
Mm-hmm. I guess I don't need to ask my permission to talk. So my question is that, so when the loan came up, because I remember voting for it because I actually was familiar already with how bad Prospect Place was. And to me, it made sense, but majority rules. So I don't want to relitigate that, but so would that, so we tried to do that to get it in this year, right?
Correct.
So, and my understanding is our engineer picks out a couple streets per year. So is Prospect Place on the agenda for next year?
Prospect Place had been placed into that list. So there's a countywide list.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the streets and the projects are scored and ranked. And so, you basically either make the cut or they don't make the cut. Prospect Place, long story short, last year was just under the cut. It just missed the cut. Because it did miss the cut, but it was high enough, that is the reason that the county came back and said, look, we can't give you the 50-50, but we do have these funds that are available to loan interest-free, as Ms. Anderson said. That's what allowed us to do that. Now, will that same thing happen? Again, I can go back and ask. I don't know for sure. We did put together a list of street projects. Myself, Ms. Hall, and the engineer, we looked at about 5 or 6 years so that we could look at what streets would be done on a long-term basis. Prospect was in there, but again, I'll go back to look to see if we, if council is willing to reconsider, we might be able to see if we can still get it in for this construction season. It's a long shot, but I mean, I can look to see.
Mr. President.
Ms. Anderson?
Ms. Hall, did you have something that you wanted to say?
Yes, my understanding is that we have Prospect on the list. I want to say 2023, 2024. Because I think the question was when we plan to do that road. But that if nothing changes this year as far as moving it up, then I think that's probably the earliest that we can see that road being handled, if you will.
Well, Ms. Underwood, here's probably what I would suggest, because I mean, it's so expensive to fix a street. I mean, if it's not like kind of in the list or budget, I would think with the street fund as is, it's going to be tough. I think if we're going to send Ron back to the county, though, I would probably suggest maybe you make a motion, since it's the bee that was in your bonnet, to see how council feels to instruct them to go back to the county. And the only reason I say that is because I don't want to send them back to the county. The county says, here, and presents it again, and then we vote on it and it doesn't pass, and we just kind of look like idiots at that point in time. So I think it would be good to get some kind of answer from council or some kind of majority interest before we send Ron back to the county and waste any of his time if this council is not going to follow up on it.
Okay, Mr. President,
Ms. Underwood?
I would like to make a motion that we request the city administrator, Mr. Mosby, to speak to his contact with Hamilton County about the possibility of the no interest loan so that we can fix Prospect Place this year.
Mr. President,
Ms. Anderson?
I will strongly second that motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
Mr. President.
Ms. Zorb?
So the thing that I would like to remind council is that, as Mr. Mosby has pointed out a couple of times, the proposal that was originally put together for Hamilton Avenue was hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget. So what that does, so if every one of these streets that are already planned come in hundreds of thousands of dollars more than was originally budgeted, that puts a kink into our street levy funds. And I know Ms. Hall I see her hand is raised again, so she'll probably tell me I'm wrong, but I don't know how I could possibly be wrong if we keep going over budget on these streets, how we eventually will not run out of money. And even if that is to pay for a zero interest loan, the money has to be paid back, right? So it has to be paid one way or the other. And I believe 2 finance directors ago, Ms. Burton used to always say loans get paid first. So no matter what, a loan's going to get paid before salaries get paid, if that's what it came down to. And that's all I want to remind council.
Okay. Are you, I
Mr.
think I want to move
President?
on to Ms. Hall if her hand's up.
Okay, it is.
Next, is
Sorry.
that okay, Ms. Underwood?
Yes, but I just want to get in line. Thanks.
Okay, you're in line. Noted. You took
wanted
a
to
number.
off-
Ms. Hall?
Yes, I just wanted to offer a correction. It is not Hamilton Avenue that came in over budget. It is the Sundale project, just so that we're all clear. But as far as the Hamilton Avenue project is concerned, yes, we are looking at approximately $590,000 that we are going to have to, come up with as a city. It is on the supplemental appropriation. I've asked council if we can draw down some of our fund balance. We have money in our fund balance to cover that by the end of the year, potentially beginning of 2022. So we can make these commitments happen. Even I want to say it's $260,000 that is over budget, approximately over budget with the Sundale project. We also have that I've also requested that we draw down some of the fund balance in the street levy fund to cover any potential overages with that project. So we do have available funds, and we are monitoring, all of these projects to make sure that we are not overextending ourselves. And I just want to make sure council understands that, I am trying to work with you to, communicate with you and bring these matters that come up, that pop up in the year so that you are aware of any changes in the budget and how we may need to adjust. So I am mindful of, some of the other projects that are coming down in the pipeline, and we'll definitely communicate with council on anything that we may not be able to sustain. Okay. And that's all.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Okay. But before we vote, I would like to know, I heard everything you said, but Mary Jo brings up a good point for sure. I guess before I vote, I'd like to know, did everything you just say, can I summarize that as in you believe that we have enough money and we're not making a reckless decision to vote for directing Mr. Mosby to approach the county about this loan?
That is correct. We are not in a position where we are overextended. We can comfortably, if Mr. Mosby is able to get us a deal where we can still, take advantage of a zero interest loan, we can support having that loan on our tax levy. So.
Okay. Ms. Underwood?
Yes. So I'd just like to kind of point something out. I know that I'm not this kind of lawyer, but I know that there are lawyers who file lawsuits about things like damage to cars when cities don't replace potholes or fix potholes, and damages to homes when cities don't take care of streets. And my understanding is that, just looking at that street, I don't know what kind of damage is being done to cars or something else, but it may be something that we also would like to consider. I haven't heard of any such thing happening to this point, but I know that I have submitted, a request for the city of Cincinnati to repair my car after I've driven over a pothole. And they did in fact send me money to fix my car after I drove over a pothole. So I know that I don't know kind of how all of that works, but I think that that's something that we should also consider before we decide to kick this can down the road. So.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Ms. DeWald?
may I speak either as the clerk or as a member of the audience in regards to the roads?
I mean, I don't mind you making a comment. I don't really care what capacity it is.
So I, like Miss Underwood, I have driven over some of the streets that are proposed to be taken care of in the next year. And I drove over Bobolink, and even though Bobolink does have some bad spots, it is not as bad as Prospect. And I was wondering if there's a way you could kind of flip their priorities and make Prospect on the Bobolink timeframe and Bobolink on the Prospect, make that 2024 instead of, does that make sense? No.
No, well, of course, every year, like I said, council fills out or completes a resolution that allows us to participate in the SCIP program by the state. And so our engineer then has based their submission on, what we had talked about. I believe at this particular point, the submission is in, but I can affirm that. But I do know that I guess the scoring of that and all of that should be done, well, probably around, I believe it's like August, September timeframe. And that's why if council passes the motion that was proposed, the monies that I was referring to earlier were monies that are part of the county program and not necessarily part of the SCIP program, in which case that could be done and not necessarily be part of that plan. That's what we were going to do originally. So I would basically still do the same thing.
Maybe I didn't listen intently. So is it not a possible exchange and refund type thing? I mean, you can't put one in place of the other?
Well, the other reason I said that is because as you know, Mr. Wald, Bobolink is a lot longer than Prospect. So the amount of money that we would be asking for Bobolink would be a lot more than it would be for Prospect. So I would probably, to answer the question, if you were asking me yes or no, I would probably say no.
Okay.
Just because of like I said, the amount and the amount of work and money that would have to go into Bobolink. Prospect is shorter, as I think most people know. The street itself is less than, it's maybe 2/10 of a mile at the most, a tenth of a mile actually. The problem is, as Ms. Underwood saw and as you've seen, the curbs are completely crumbled. On most of the streets, there's a slope so that the water run off. And unfortunately, that is not there. Whenever it rains heavy, as you all see, the water piles up. So, which is why I presented it to council before. But again, just to reiterate, if council does pass that, I will go back to the county to see if I'll be able to get those and see if that project could be worked on this summer. Because the other part, Mr. Miller-Novak, the design has already been done on that. So we would not have to go through that process. All we'd have to do is just basically do the construction work.
All right, well, unless anybody has anything else, the motion's on the floor. I think we just call the question and move it on.
Okay. Ms. Dukestein?
I support it.
Ms. Blythe?
No.
Ms. Underwood?
Yes.
Mr. Miller-Novak?
Yes.
Ms. Zorb?
No.
Ms. Hartman?
Yes.
Ms. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Underwood's motion passes by a vote of 5-2.
Okay. Does anybody else have any new business they would like to discuss? All right. I think we've tired ourselves out.
Mr. President,
Oh, Ms. Anderson.
with that silence, I move to adjourn.
Mr. President, I will second that motion.
Okay, so I have a motion by Ms. Anderson to adjourn and a second by Ms. Zorb.
Ms. Dukestein,
Yes.
Ms. Blythe,
Yes.
Ms. Underwood,
I have a question. What happens if we all vote no? Does that mean we just don't adjourn?
You better pull out your sleeping bag.
Yeah, that's
Just
rest of your life.
Just curious, it's kind of like that Netflix question. Are you still watching? Okay, so yes, sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Miller Novak,
Well, I'm going to vote yes.
Ms. Zorb,
Yes.
Ms. Hartman,
Yes.
Ms. Anderson.
Yes.
Mr. President, motion to adjourn passes 7-0.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everybody for being patient for my several flubs today. And thanks for attending. Oh, I feel so weird doing this, but adjourned.
Good job, Matt. Great job. Thank you.
Good job, Matt.